if you have a dysfunctional spinal segment that's not moving right, it's a bit locked up and starting to degenerate, it can affect your nervous system in three different ways. The first way is because it's not moving, it's not sending as much movement feedback to the brain to tell the brain where this segment is in space. And that lacking information can really interfere with a process called sensory motor integration, which happens in this part of the brain, where you basically integrate information coming up into the brain and information going from the brain out into the body, like how to adjust to small slips and changes in the environment as you're trying to execute a movement task like walking, something like that. So you're more likely to slip over or be a bit clumsy, or also if you're not getting the accurate information of what's happening in the spine. Second thing that can happen is that when a segment is dysfunctional, quite often it can rob and tax the tissues around the segment more than otherwise would, which leads to inflammation, and that inflammation makes the nerve endings super sensitive. So even normal touch, when you have inflamed swollen area, becomes tender, and same thing happens in the spine. So even normal pressure sends pain signals up to the brain. That might be enough to actually make you feel pain if it's sort of enough to hit that threshold. If not, you can still have underlying pain constantly bombarding your brain from the spine, from one of these dysfunctional segments. And what that does is that it pushes your nervous system towards a fight and flight response. So it's one of those things that can tax you, another sort of rock in the backpack that pushes you towards more of a stress physiology and away from that rest and digest and recovery state. The last way your nervous system can be affected by a dysfunctional segment is that from that dysfunction, the swelling can actually put pressure on these nerve roots as they exit out from the spine to have a communication between the brain and the body, so your body can function properly. So there's a few different ways you can get pressure on those nerves. Swelling was the first one that I mentioned, but you can also have scar tissue that sort of put pressure on it, or you can have bone spurs or disc bulges. Like all these things can physically put pressure on the nerve and interfere with that communication between the brain and the body. So that's your three ways.